Good morning. I'm Karen Stepper. I'm very honored to be the mayor of Danville once again. We're a community that is very focused right now on economic development. We've come out of the pandemic and we're working together and collaborating on issues that affect our businesses, and you are the core because you're the ones who come down and shop in Danville. So today I wanted to welcome as our guest Tim Argenti. He's from the Danville Area Chamber of Commerce. A little better introduction later. Tim will be joined by Jen Starnes, and she's part of our town economic development manager is her new title. She has been promoted. She's already been our PIO and just done awesome press releases that hopefully you're signed up for. And we will next, after that, have the Chief of Planning, David Crompton. We are finally getting our approved certified housing element, and I want to bring some points to you of what changes are occurring. And our third guest will be Lieutenant Heather Transu with our police department, and she will be telling us how the police are responding to mental health issues in Danville. And I do mean in Danville. She's got examples right here and what the importance to us today. So thank you again for joining us. We will be doing these quarterly and approximately this time, hopefully on Fridays at 10 to 11. But remember, you can always watch it streaming at a later point in time. So like now, I would like to introduce our first guest, and that will be Tim Argenti. Tim has been on the chamber and many chambers actually in our county for 25 years maybe. He was the general manager for Republic Services. They are the company that keeps our town so clean. One of the things the scouts pointed out to me last night in the character of Danville is that we do keep our community clean because we're very proud of it. Tim's been a big part of that and lives here in Danville. So he's going to be our speaker from the Danville Chamber of Commerce and the changes that are going forth, but we'll also be, of course, cooperating with the Economic Development Department for Danville, and it's going to be an excellent collaboration. So thank you for both for coming this morning, and I'd like to start with our chamber, which is Tim Argenti. I was really pleased to come and do the installation of officers a few weeks ago. And there, our time got shortened and shortened, but it didn't matter. Everybody got sworn in. And it's an awesome board. Tim, would you like to talk about the chamber and how your 12 years of experience is heading? At least 12 different chambers are going to help us this year with our business.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. It's really exciting. I love to be involved in chambers of commerce. It's the life's blood of the business, and I'd like to be a part of that. Yeah. One thing I'd like to say is that from my experience working with several chambers around primarily Contra Costa and actually Santa Clara County, is that it's essential that a chamber and the town or city staff have an effective collaboration. We're separate entities, and as a organization and as a town. However, we speak with one mind and we're one power, and we can get things done if we work together. And I'm very excited to work with Jen. I know our staff at the chamber is, and our board is very excited. And we've got some exciting things to look forward to. There's, I use an old expression, only dead fish go with the flow. And that means that you can't sit still, you can't get stagnant, you can't just rely on the way things have been. You got to keep moving forward. And with the chamber, we look at ourselves as a catalyst of business and economic growth. We have 500 members, and we provide resources, we provide direction and help for those 500 members, but we're also concerned about the entire business community in Danville, not just members of the Chamber of Commerce. And I'll give you an example. We have a merchant at the market, at the markets, thank you, every week, and we provide a booth for a business owner to use to promote his business, and they can be either a member of the chamber or not a member of the chamber. So that's just one example that we're not just excluding those that aren't chamber members. We're in this for the whole business community. And some of the things that we do is to get people to businesses and get people into town and to our shopping centers. They're important too. Is we have ribbon cuttings for all new businesses that come in to Danville join the chamber. It's an event that's staged. We invite business leaders, community leaders. I know the businesses invite their families and employees, and it becomes a very important time for them to highlight their business. Just last night we went to one at Primrose Academy up on Tassajara Lane. That's a infant through 5-year-old preschool. They brought out people from their corporate office. It's very important to them, and I think it's really forward thinking for a preschool to join a Chamber of Commerce. It's somewhat unique that happens, but they're looking for it to take care of our children and grandchildren.
Just to comment on that, because we also had one a week ago, Regis, that was also very well attended, and that's offering business space or temporary space. And again, they brought all their corporate people. We made sure we got them all in the photo because they wanted to know who we were to follow up later with our economic team, and that's the other part of this story.
Not only attracting people from the community and also from the business to this event, but they're also highlighted on our website.
Yeah.
Social media puts them up on Facebook or whatever mediums you use. There's a lot of different ways that they're exposed, and that's a way to get people to come to new businesses, some of which don't have the utmost marketing skills, and they kind of rely on the town and the chamber to help them market their business. So we did, I think, 18 or 19 ribbon cuttings last year alone.
Yeah.
And I know that you or other elected officials from the town
I think
council.
I only got to 17 of the 18.
I think so. But you know how important it is for you to be there. And I just look at how excited owners are when we recognize them like that. So that's very important. We do a monthly mixer, which is a business hosts the event, provides hors d'oeuvres and beverages. We've gotten up to 100 people to go to these mixers, and it not only highlights that particular business, but it's a good networking opportunity for people in the community to exchange business cards and so forth. But that's good exposure that they wouldn't have gotten had they not, been a part of a chamber process. So we have those every month. We have workshops for businesses. And we have a lot of events that draw people downtown. And I know one on March 21st that's coming is the State of the Town Luncheon at Croquet Country Club.
Please come.
Mayor Stepper will be speaking and telling us what's going on in the town. And if you would like tickets, please go on our website. And if you want to become a sponsor, please go on our website.
So let me go back over and introduce Jen for a minute, and then
Sure.
we're going to come back to you with the chamber events and some of the other things that are initiatives for you this year. So Jen Starnes, as I said again, if you're not signed up for her press releases that come out, seems like every other day sometimes, or what's going on in the town, would you like to introduce how you changed things? You and Leanna Dodo is your assistant. Okay.
Yeah, so we have a lot of exciting new initiatives that we're working with the chamber on and also initiating from the town. So we have a new business toolkit coming. We've listened to businesses, and we have a unique situation in Danville is that our economic development is driven by majority long-term businesses here 5 years or more. And we also have businesses looking to expand, but we don't have what a lot of other cities have, which might be, looking for big tech or big medical or large businesses coming in. And so we wanted to kind of retool our business toolkit to better serve the needs of those businesses. So that's going to be called the Prospector, and we're launching that soon. And it's going to have information about new tenant space that might be available and also demographics, so to look into potential audiences for new businesses to come to Danville and potential employees that might be available in Danville. We also have a few social media driven initiatives that really help get the word out about our businesses. We have almost 10,000 followers on Instagram and 10,000 followers on Facebook. So that's a significant, more than almost a quarter of the town. And we want to be able to use those platforms to help businesses get their information out. So we have a program coming called Tell the Town. And that is just a very simple way for businesses to tell the town about promotions or sales or special events that they might have coming up. We celebrated a business birthday recently for Love You More Designs in town. And it's just for us to be able to share that information out with the community. And we also have, as you know, our Open in Danville program. So this is just a very simple program where the mayor or another elected official goes with us to just welcome a business in their first month or so of being in Danville, and just to say hello and to give them information and just a face and a contact to be able to talk to people once they've started their business. So that's been very successful.
That was a great fun to do. You have this wonderful sign that says we are open, and you see it in our quarterly newsletter. It listed all the new businesses, and the first one was Alka's Brows, B-R-O-W, and her brow studio is newly opened, and she was talking about, when I got there, all the other things they're doing, but they're still putting their feet in the water, and they're going to have these custom-made Indian dresses for weddings and celebrations that were absolutely stunning. Did you know a dress could weigh 32 pounds? Oh my gosh. So that one, and then the Isola just opened, which of course is the Sicilian restaurant, and again, a family-run restaurant. It just has, everybody was there, and they had a soft opening that they could hardly keep up with, and they have other restaurants in other places. So it was exciting to talk to a neighbor who had followed him since 10th grade, what he is doing through a lot of different entries. So big business for the Danville.
Yeah, and those stories of those unique business owners is what we find unique in Danville. It's what makes the shopping experience unique in Danville, is that almost every shop you go into, there's a story behind it. And usually it's the business owner who's behind the register.
Well done.
Yeah, so that's something that we really want to just let people know that it's open in Danville. And then the last thing, a couple of more things we have. One is our business email list. And if I could just speak directly to the business owners, we have an email list that we're trying to get going of business owners so that we can share information with them about these new initiatives. So we can share information about opportunities that we might have, opportunities the chamber might have, other nonprofit organizations that we work with to generate business in Danville. There's lots of opportunities out there, and we just want to make sure that our business owners know about those. And so if people are interested in signing up for that email list, they can find that information after this show on the danvilletowntalks.org/mayor website.
Okay.
And we'll have a recap of all of the links we talk about today, but that email address will be there, and they can sign up and receive information starting next month.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
We're going to go back to the chamber with some of the fun things they do, but maybe you'd like to talk first, Tim, about the initiative you had for businesses owners, because it relates to what Jen just said, and then we'll go back to the fun events that are happening that we hope are going to benefit. Not only, we keep saying downtown, but some of these will also come out into the other shopping centers and join Danville together.
Right,
Tim.
and I'd like to say, first of all, as we talk about getting people and attracting them downtown to a business, it has a rippling effect. So if you can get them down there and they're going to one specific store, chances are they're going to shop at other stores while they're down there. So it's very important to keep that in mind, and also continue to highlight businesses and get people downtown. We have, in speaking of the downtown, and also speaking, like you briefly mentioned about the outlying shopping centers, is we do bring them in. We have a good collaborative effort with our spring wine stroll with the Livery and Mercantile Shopping Center. They're big supporters and participants in that, where many of their stores open up for wine and open up their shops. So that's one example. Iron Horse, Tassera Crossings, we're in constant contact with them to see how we can help them expand the business up in those areas too. So it's not just the downtown, even though we want to get people downtown. That's a big focus of ours.
Oh, yeah.
And the next event up is the wine stroll that comes up in the spring, and over 450 tickets were sold for this event last year. And 40 businesses opened their doors, poured wine, and also people shopped and bought from these stores. So that's the first one that's coming up, and I think we'll have a couple of the dates up on the screen for you in a moment. And then you might want to talk a little bit about our summer art fling that's coming up.
Okay, I'm going to say a word and then he's going to take over. But a lot of you remember the open studios that used to be in Danville, where people could go out to houses of the artists in Danville, of which we have many, as well as our gallery downtown. And it's hard to get to all those. It's a very lot of work to put it together. And some of the artists don't understand how they can bring them into a studio because that's not their normal way to do so. So to facilitate that, you're going to have this art fair. I guess I'd call it an art stroll because it's going to be integrated with our businesses. So they don't have to go anywhere and drive around. They just drive once and walk our downtown businesses and see these artists that are both ones that are students, to involve students from the schools that are in art, as well as more experienced artists, and paired with them with a business. So you want to say another word? Because I'm very excited about this because it's going to be a new way to see art in Danville.
I love the open studio concept, and this not only does that, but it brings artists the opportunity to show what they can do. And like you mentioned, it's everything from high school students to seniors that'll be able to bring their art downtown. And we're hoping that that the businesses that host the artists will display some of their work in their windows, and also they'll be able to buy art right there from the artist. So I think that's really exciting. And there'll be other attractions to keep people downtown as well, besides the artsy fling that we're going to be doing. But I think it'd be great. I think it's going to be a big success.
I said it wrong. It's an art fling. But just like the strolls, make sure that you bring 3 or 4 friends with you because you will enjoy the event a lot more and you will shop more. So.
Well, that's what happens with the stroll. I mean, you see groups getting together and it's a night out. So later on in the year, we've got another rock and stroll that occurs later in the year. I can't remember the date, but we'll put it up on the screen. Mm-hmm. We're bringing back an Oktoberfest on October 20th. Years past, we had an Oktoberfest, so it was pretty much closed Arts Avenue, but this is going to be a little different. It's going to be there's going to be locally driven vendors and food available. There's going to be a walking stroll and beer and wine garden down Harts Avenue. And over on Railroad next to the museum, there's going to be other activities for the family, and there'll also be a polka band at that event.
Hey, we have accordion classes, in our rec program. So.
You do?
Yeah. Okay.
My wife plays the accordion, or used to anyway. She still has that accordion in the garage. So those are some of the events that are coming that's going to bring a lot of people downtown. Certainly we're keeping our eyes open. Jen and I talk all the time, and Jen talks to staff all the time about what more can we do. I think I mentioned to you earlier that we walk the streets. Recently I walked the streets with Councilmember Fong and listen to what people have to say. We're not going to be able to adjust or adapt or add things if we don't hear from our businesses what they need, what they'd like to see. And so that's a big component of the whole thing. And then as far as events go, the lighting of the old oak tree, which occurs the day after Thanksgiving, is huge over the years. I was Father Christmas for a couple of years myself. Yes. And looking down at that huge crowd, it's amazing. It just makes you feel great to think about our community and gathering like this. And I think there was over 10,000 people in this last year. And then after that, there's events all the way down Harts. Businesses are open. There's s'mores and hot chocolates being handed out. And people stay. They don't go home. They want to go downtown because it's a synergy. It's a vibration. It's a vibe that people come downtown and see friends and have something to eat, and it keeps people happy. It's happy. It's a happy time.
This is point what I'd like to be about the trees that were up and down the whole valley. This is done by Fostering Wishes for foster children. We have over 1,000 children in this county that are foster children. They move from place to place, so they don't always get presents for the holidays. Right. And so when our businesses, 32 businesses, step forward and put these trees up with the things that are needed by these kids, and they host the people coming in, tell them how to be a part of this effort to help the foster children. It was complemented by Jen putting it up on Facebook and thanking our businesses for what they did. So it's a synergy to bring people into the businesses, but it's just such an amazing thing that we have in our valley so many nonprofits that help those that need help.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. And I know how Jen does as well with social media is that our social media is on fire, and we document all these events, pictures of businesses. You know, we had two particular processes that, for lack of a better word, was on our social media. One was the 25 Days of Christmas, which highlighted businesses every day for 25 days during Christmas. And then this Valentine's Day, it was Share the Love, Shop Danville, and that was on our social media, which is a great complement to the other things that we do.
All right. Would you like to make a conclusion here about our collaboration? Any other points?
Could I mention briefly our women's initiative?
Yes, I was waiting for that.
Oh, okay. Thank you. We're really excited as a chamber to have a Women in Business initiative, and what it does is it's a business incubator set up in different sessions where business women leaders can be mentored on several aspects of business at these workshops. Everything from accounting, from finance, to marketing, public, marketing and community service, and it's going to prepare them or help them become successful in business. I think there's still signups going on if anybody out there would like to sign up for it. I will say it's also offered to men. I don't know the makeup of the group but we've had a very good response, and we're looking forward to seeing these women thrive, prosper in business, because a significant number of our businesses in Danville are women-owned or run.
Excellent
Thank
initiative. You. And Jen, did you have any conclusion you'd like to add?
Yeah, thank you for talking about the events. Going back to the Oktoberfest event, I'm very excited about that. And people will see a difference from what they have seen in the past with other fall events. But this is also us learning from what has worked. And so the Chamber has reported to us some of their sip and stroll events. That format is some of the most popular events that they have. And it also better complements the events that the town holds. So we're really trying with the Chamber and with all of our organizations that we work with to provide a balance to the community. So the funding that the town provides to the Chamber is to provide business boosting opportunities and also events that the community can enjoy.
Oh, thank you very both of you being guests here today, because it really helps people understand how many things that we're trying to double up on the efforts for our businesses. So thank you for coming.
Great.
And we'll go to the next part of our program.
Thank you very much.
And they can call you later, too.
You're going to critique me later?
No, I don't think so. We are joined next with our Director of Planning, and that will be David Crompton. He's been here in Danville, thankfully, a long time. He has an amazing schedule. We just had to wake him up here because he told me he could do this talk. He could do it in his sleep because he has been absolutely immersed in the housing element and the certification that was coming 3 different times. Yeah. So, David, give us an overview of how the housing element, now that we're finally going to adopt that.
Yeah, sure. Well, good morning, Mayor Stepper, and it's great to be here to talk a little housing element this morning. So just to take a step back, I think just to remind people what a housing element is. And so a housing element is part of the town's general plan, and it is the only part of our general plan that requires state approval. And we under state law, we have to do every city and county in California has to do a new housing element every 8 years. And so this is what's known as the 6th cycle of our housing elements. So this is the 6th housing element that we have approved. And it runs from the years of 2023 to 2031. And so as you mentioned, we've been working on this for over 3 years. And just as of January 2nd, after several submittals to the state of California, we received a letter from them saying that our housing element is now substantially in compliant with state law. So that is a huge hurdle, and so then it was just up to taking it back through our planning commission and town council for adoption before sending it back to the state for official certification. So the biggest part of the housing element, the hardest part and the biggest, most controversial part is something called the RENA, and that's our Regional Housing Needs Assessment, and that is part of the state law. And the state of California assigns every city and county in California a certain number of housing units that they need to plan for over this 8-year period. And they all have to be within, they have to include different affordability income levels. So all the way from very low income, moderate income to above moderate income. So we have to plan for all those different types of inclusionary housing.
So I'd just like to make an interjection here about this, because this law was 1969. People think this is all something very new, but in fact, you've been immersed in this since you've come to Danville. It's always been around, and it has major implications for our housing. And so in a minute, we'll go through some of the changes that we had to adopt.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the 6th cycle. Everyone has gotten harder and harder. The state has continued to pass a slew of new laws that affect the housing element and what needs to be included in the housing element. And
I'm going to define slew. Several hundred each year have to do with housing now.
Yeah. Yes. We've tried to we do track them, and but that's what's made this housing element so difficult. Is the laws have changed as we've been going through this process over the last 3 years. So,
yeah, right.
But the good news is, well, let me go back. So the total number of housing units that the town was assigned this 8-year cycle was 2,291 units to accommodate in the town. Important to realize that doesn't mean they're going to get built or we have to build them. That's up to the private sector. What the town's responsibility was to find lands throughout town and have enough land that's zoned appropriately at the right residential densities to accommodate that 2,291 housing number that we were assigned.
Which is miraculous that you found that, because that's 4 times as many as we were asked in the last cycle.
Yes, in our 5th cycle, we were tasked with about 550, and this was almost 4 times that. So, so working in 2022 and 2021, when we were working on the housing element, we did a lot of public outreach and public engagement. And working with the community, we identified a number of sites throughout town that we did change from whatever the zoning was to a new zoning, to residential zonings to meet our RENA. And the town council approved that back in January of 2023. So that was the really difficult part.
And then next we're going to go on, but this approval process has been arduous, to say it.
Arduous, to say the least. And there's a lot of cities that are struggling, even years past the deadline to get their housing elements approved. And there are cities that are being sued for not having compliant housing elements, and the penalties for not having a housing element are extreme. And I could go into that if you want, but
no, I don't want to cover the dollars. But the fact is that there's a city down south, well-known, that doesn't have its approval. So if they come in to get a permit for some minor change to their house, they can't get it because the town is not involved anymore in the planning and zoning for that city until they get this housing element. So we can't thank you enough for bringing you this with 3 different times to go take this letter to the state to bring it to what we will have a certified housing element.
Right. If we don't find a way to plan for ourselves, even though these are very tough assignments for us, the state will step in and plan for us. So, so as part of the housing element, in addition to the RENA, there's a whole matrix, I think about an 8-page long matrix of implementation measures that we need to do over the next 8 years to comply with all these parts of the state law. And I wanted to touch on a few of those, if you would like. Okay.
Yeah, I think that we talked earlier, there are probably about 5 different areas that we'd like you to touch on, because those are the ones that people are going to see first as impact. Again, we don't do the building. The developments come in, and the developers do that if they find that it's going to be incentivized enough for them to do so. So go ahead and cover those areas that are the main ones that changed in this last cycle.
Right. So in addition to the housing assignment that we received, we were also required to implement what the state calls missing middle housing. So the state really wants local jurisdictions, especially high resource jurisdictions like Danville, to provide additional housing choices in existing residential neighborhoods. And so a few of those that we are implementing are One was related to the Community Presbyterian Church, which is off of West El Pintado. And they've actually purchased a number of the homes behind them on Ilo and Charles Lane. And working with them, they want to upzone those properties to build housing back there, higher density housing that would be both for their workforce and then, for the community. So that's one.
That's the missing middle.
That's missing middle.
houses
That's densifying
that we-
existing single-family neighborhoods. Yeah. And then the other one, another one is related to another law passed by the state here this year. It's called SB4, and that allows basically any religious site, any site that's owned by a religious entity in town, is automatically been changed by the state to multifamily housing. So any church could build housing at 30 units an acre on their properties. So in order to implement that, this town has gone ahead and rezoned all the church sites in residential districts to M35, which is 35 units an acre. So that's kind of, the state wants to see cities be proactive in implementing SB4, and so that's something that we are doing. Another missing middle to densify existing single-family neighborhoods is a amendment to our single-family ordinance, which would allow for higher development on corner lots throughout town in our residential districts. And so basically on any corner lot in town, you can subdivide into 2 lots, and you can build a primary residence on each. You can also build an ADU, attached or detached accessory dwelling unit on each. And you can also build junior ADUs within the footprint of the single-family home. Junior ADU is defined as the conversion of 500 square feet of existing floor space. And so under current state law, any corner lot could develop up to 4 units. Under this, you could develop up to 8. But we're doing it in such a way that it really is complementary or consistent with the neighborhood. You can look around town, and a lot of neighborhoods have duet units on corner lots where you have driveways coming on each side, but it looks like a single-family home. And so this would just allow for an ADU, which each lot can already do anyways, and the conversion of junior ADUs within the unit. So it densifies, gives more housing choices in single-family neighborhoods, but doesn't really change the look.
But the other requirement was that this be townwide. Because they originally took away the single-family residence zoning, which we and other cities of our size, with the character of Danville, have always had a great number of our neighborhoods. Now they're zoned differently for other kinds of building. And so this is what we're hearing. We're trying to give you a flavor of that, but if you have follow-up questions later, David Crompton, as you can tell, is going to be the person to answer it. And now there's some other changes that have occurred, too, with this.
Yeah, just a couple more. And these are things that people might notice as they see new residential developments going up. One is we had to amend our zoning code to allow for more stories and higher heights, basically loosen up our development standards to take away constraints from development. And so historically, we've only allowed 2-story buildings in Danville, and now we have to allow 3-story buildings in Danville. Historically, the maximum height has been 35 feet. So we raised it to 37, so it's only an additional 2 feet. So shouldn't be too much different, but the 3 stories and the 37 feet is higher than we've allowed before. But that's what we had to do to get state compliance with our housing element. I wanted to mention that there are 4 sites in town that we've gone ahead and we've changed to allow for 4-story buildings, and those are the Old Town offices right next door here to where we are. And a site across the freeway here, it's 425 El Pintado, which is right on the corner of El Cerro and at the on-ramp to the freeway there. And a couple sites along Diablo Road. And we changed those because we know that we're going to get 4-story buildings there, likely anyways, because one of the many state laws that was approved is called the State Density Bonus Law. And it basically says that if you provide some additional affordability in your project, you can ask for waivers, and the town can't say no to them. And so what they're going to be asking for is a 4th floor. So we will be working with them to
So we've already
design
seen
those.
some planning coming in on that, and that's why it's going to happen. So we may as well get credit for it with the state,
Exactly.
in a sense. It's not because we're looking for that. And the other thing that David has said is that if there is 4-story along some of the other places, that there will be setback. In other words, meaning that the back would be the taller part, the front part would not be so tall. Is that correct?
Yeah. So again, the state law has taken away some of our review authority, even of these new housing projects, and anything that we require of them has to be what's called objective development standards. So we can't say architecturally, well, we don't really like this because it doesn't look the way we think it should look. It has to be tied to some objective standards, and so we have standards that talk about if you have a third story or a fourth story, they have to be stepped back away from the first or second, so that you don't have a 3-story or 4-story straight up elevation along the street. We want to minimize massing and impact on the street and that type of thing. So we've built in a lot of standards like that we think that we will be able to enforce, that will help us keep these new developments in line with the character of Danville.
Excellent. And so are there any other points that you think on this last that was a big change?
Maybe just one more.
Yes, thank
And
you.
this is related to group homes in residential areas. And so we were talking about care facilities and transitional homes and support facilities. These have always been allowed in residential districts if you have up to 6 people in them. And if you want to have 7 or more, then you required some type of a land use permit through the town. And so state law changed on that last year, and now if any types of those group homes are now considered just to be residential uses and allowed by right in any residential district. No maximum on the number of residents in them. So
So I'm going to define that as you just go, you're waved past the permit center, and it's a ministerial approval on a lot of these laws.
we wouldn't even know about it. They go to the state and get their, through the State Department of Social Services or whatever entity they need licensed through. And then they move in just like any other family would into a single family neighborhood, and the town has no authority over them. So that is a change, and there may be folks out there that see that happening in their neighborhood.
And we didn't ask for these changes.
We did not ask for changes, no.
But we do not want to lose control of the character of Danville. And so it's really important for us that you've been spending so much time trying to make this happen and done it in phases. Those phases occurred for a reason, because we were trying to look for what Danville has always had, and we were asked to make all these changes by the state legislature. And that's a continuing process, and it's a trade-off, and we are going to make it as well as we can. That will be the character of Danville.
Right. Right, and there's a number of implementation measures in addition to that we're going to be working on over the next 8 years, and so we'll be, I'm sure we'll be talking future times.
Because this is every 8 years, and we've been through cycles since '69. So,
Well, yes, and we started this cycle probably around 2020. So I don't want to think about when we need to start thinking about the next housing element, but it'll come.
No, because these people have been at their desks. I won't tell you how late at night. It doesn't matter when I come through to get my mail. You're all working on this. It has been a massive project with a number of our staff, and just kudos to all of you, and congratulations on finally bringing it to fruition, David. Thank you.
It was a big team effort. So
great leadership. Thank you. So next, we are going to go to our final speaker of the, I should say guest, who's a guest speaker here on the Mayor's Talk today. And this is Lieutenant Transu. So welcome, Heather. We're pleased that you're able to join us and talk about a specific thing that I think that you had selected that's happening that people don't know about, and that's the mental health issues in town and how we're addressing them and how we're coordinating with other agencies. So thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Did Jen want to ask a question about how we contact 911? Okay. Where I wanted to start was, how do you call for...
I know what you were saying. I said the other day, I said, well, the first thing people ask is, what do I do when there's an emergency that I perceive is a mental health issue? Where do I go? And that's really what you're going to talk about today entirely, I think.
Right. So the question is, how do you contact 911 or how do you contact emergency services if you have a mental health emergency or any emergency? And the easiest thing is always to remind people, call 911 in an emergency. I want to recommend or educate people that the emergency call goes to Sheriff's Dispatch, and there's several ways to call Sheriff's Dispatch, not just 911. So one of the ways is if you're in the county, you can actually text 911 and you'll get in contact with an emergency dispatcher that way. You can communicate with them and request resources. And the other way is you can call the non-emergency number, and that number is 925-646-2441. So that's another way to get in contact with our dispatch that's the non-emergency line. So it would be in a situation that's a little bit less critical, but again, there's several ways to contact. And just keep in mind that Danville PD is committed to providing the community with exceptional service, and regardless of how you call, we will show up and officers will respond and help out.
I'd like to just clarify for the public here that our sheriff's office is part of the sheriff's office for the whole county. We contract with the office, and you are an officer for them, but you are our Danville Police Department. And we are pleased to do it that way because they offer so many resources to you, for the lab in Martinez to the facilities and people that are on hold, et cetera. So if you have any comment on that, I can tell you that we look at that every 4 years or so, and we do this because it has been so well received, and we've had amazing officers who really know our community. So thank you.
Yes, there's definitely value in collaborating and having the additional training and well-rounded officers that come from having experience working in all areas of the county. Specifically, we're talking about mental health today and the response to that. So over my career, I've seen an uptick in the training that we've received based on communities' needs in that area. So keeping in line with what you just talked about with deputy sheriffs being who the officers that respond in Danville, they have so much training even from their early days as a deputy sheriff assigned to custody services. So there's currently in custody, there's 5 deputy sheriffs that are specially trained to address mental health. And those are the deputies that are potentially working in Danville later in their career and using those skills that they've acquired. But regardless of assignment, every deputy sheriff is specially trained in response to mental health evaluation and responses, to include the crisis intervention training that the hospital puts on for all deputy sheriffs, and advanced officer training that we get yearly.
Our training facility is even better here. We're sitting here in our new town offices, where you have the whole back area of 3 floors, and the training that occurs here. I know Chief Shields says he gets to bring more people into the training because it's here on site, and they don't have to go up to Martinez for a lot of it. In fact, they come down here because we have such a great facility.
Absolutely, it's exceptional. The other thing I wanted to talk about in regards to mental health was the agencies that we associate with and that augment police response. So there's 5 things that I want to talk about, 5 agencies and programs that we work with. The most common is the mental health evaluation that an officer would do on scene once they get a request from the public, or basically a 911 call like we talked about. And so an officer would respond to that call for service and conduct a mental health evaluation of that person. So the things that the officer has to keep in mind is the safety of the public, the safety of the person that they're trying to help or helping, and the officer's safety themselves. So Danville PD officers receive specialized training to respond to these circumstances like we discussed, and they have to prioritize the safety. If certain criteria are met, then the officer can place a hold on that person, and the hold requires that they be evaluated by a mental health professional for up to 72 hours. So the conditions of that that the officer is evaluating are whether the person is a danger to themselves, are they a danger to others, or are they gravely disabled, meaning they can't care for themselves. So keep it with those criteria in mind. The officer has to talk with the person, communicate with them, kind of figure out where they're at, and make a determination of whether or not a hold should be placed on them. So that's the first one. It's the most common for officer response. The second one I want to mention is the Fire First response program. So about 6 months ago marked a change in how the city of San Ramon responds to mental health emergencies, and with the inception of this program. So for nonviolent mental health calls for service, the fire personnel responds instead of police. So that's one of the things that the town of Danville is committed to, having that similar response in our area also. The third one I want to mention is the Mental Health Evaluation Team, or MET, and that is a team of specially trained deputy sheriffs alongside of clinicians. They respond to calls for service after the initial police response. So they respond later, and they talk to the people and they follow up. They're the subject matter experts in what resources are available to that person, and they can help kind of meet them where they're at in their daily lives. And the cool thing about that is, because they build relationships with the person needing help, that person is more likely to accept the help.
And this is where you were going to give us a great example in Danville, I think.
Yes, definitely.
Because which you described, and by the way, you're doing a wonderful job of avoiding the acronyms that people don't know. So when they say the MET team, she said it very clearly, Mental Health Evaluation Team. So we get used to some of these terms and how that is a different level of response. So
right. So the MET team would probably follow up on the case study I was going to talk about. Mm-hmm. But that was, again, the initial response that I talked about, with the evaluation for whether or not that person meets the criteria of are they a danger to themselves. And in this circumstance, that did apply. So I'll talk about that case. It's a dynamic case of officer responding and Danville officers responding and thinking outside the box of how they can help this person. So the initial call came into 911, and like we talked about, and the mother was calling about her son. He was having a mental health a breakdown and needed help. So what he was doing, and she provided this information in dispatch, he had locked himself in the bathroom and he had possession of a knife. So obviously officers needed to get the knife away from him to make sure he wasn't hurting himself and make sure he wasn't hurting his mother. Yeah. So he locked himself in the bathroom. He was not responding to communication. We couldn't figure out where he was at, what he needed in that moment. And so officers deployed a drone. And to the second floor, it was a second story, they were able to see inside and recommend when the drone operator could say, this is a good time to go in, get the knife away from him. And then everything was kind of calmed down after that, in regards to he couldn't hurt himself anymore. He couldn't hurt his mother. And then they were able to evaluate him, place the hold on him, and get him the care that he needed.
It's just an excellent example, and it's one that you covered in your newsletter. I shouldn't call it newsletter because it's the Danville Police Department reports. Yes. The fact that drones are being used for things that other people don't even imagine. Imagine going to the second floor and making it safe for the officer to enter and not get stabbed. That's we need to do that all the time, of course.
Right.
But we don't think about that. And I think that's why last year I was telling you at the Museum of San Ramon Valley, when Veterans Day weekend, and they have the big museum there, it was wonderful to see our officers come by a couple times and demonstrate the drones, because the kids are fascinated by it. They're better than most of their parents at directing what drone's going to do. And now you've given us a real case example of how those are so important that we keep up with the equipment and technology.
Thank you. And Danville PD is able to do that because of support from town council and others. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Couple more programs that I want to mention.
Definitely.
So the fourth one is A3. It's a crisis call center that provides care for people when they have mental health emergencies. A3 stands for anyone, anywhere, anytime. And they recently went to transition to a 24-hour operation. So they're on receiving calls 24 hours a day. So that basically just increases their ability to respond to the community and help. So what that looks like is if somebody needs mental health services, but they're not a danger to themselves, they don't fit that criteria that I mentioned, that's when A3 would respond.
Oh.
Basically helping them in the moment as long as they don't fit that criteria of needing a hold. And they can, kind of like the MET team, provide real-time experience to what services would be applicable for that person and how to best serve that person. So A3 is a great resource here in the county. In 2023, I wanted to mention that A3 responded to our jurisdiction here in Danville 5 times. Wow. And they provided phone assistance 12 times. And again, there's going to be an uptick of that considering their availability is 24 hours a day for the first time recently. Yeah. Yes. So, and then the MET team, I want to go.
That's major what you just said. The fact that that's what I heard at the mayor's conference, which is the whole county has the 19 cities meet and hear different speakers every month. Mm-hmm. And that was one of them that was brought up. The fact that it hadn't been 24 hours, but mental health happens at all times and particularly at night. So.
Yeah, well said. And again, police respond 24 hours a day, so we are yes. trained in this area. We're willing to respond. We're absolutely prepared and available, but A3 is just going to augment that. And I forgot to mention a stat regarding the MET team, so I wanted to back up.
Okay, yes.
And MET responded to 100% of cases where we were requested, or where the MET team was requested. They always respond after the initial call for service. And so they served 15 families in the Danville community in 2023.
That's really important because we're here talking about Danville, and people always think, oh, that's somewhere else on the news. They see all these things on the channels and that are happening in
right.
cities around here. And the reason we're not hearing them so much is because you're on top of them right away.
Yes, definitely, and providing people with resources. So the last one I want to quickly mention is Seneca. It's a Bay Area program that started in 1985. It's developed over the years to include even more services, kind of like A3. It's a progressive situation that they're able to help the community by seeing the need and changing and improving, just like the progressive thinking that we were talking about earlier in the broadcast. So they're designed to support children and families during challenging times, and specifically to Danville, Seneca connects with the schools so that they figure out which kids need help the most. So the key points is just that Danville PD works with other agencies to provide excellent service and try to think of a well-rounded approach to helping our community.
Well, I like the way you emphasize that when you do go in for emergencies, that we always have in mind the safety of the officers. You know, people come to Danville because they hope that they have a more safe place to serve, and we see them at all of our events, and everybody knows who they are. I know I've heard it said from your department before, everybody should know one of these officers by name because they're everywhere all the time and easy to meet, and know that you have somebody to call that you recognize. And that's when you don't have an emergency. So it's even more important for these people that are in an emergency situation, what you have described. And I had no idea that 911 could be just texted instead of phoned, because you keep saying call, but kids don't call. I'm sorry. Well, grandkids don't call. They just they just text everything. So I love the way you're keeping up with the times and making it easier for people. And I want to make one other comment, and then I'll let you conclude with some other, whatever else you would like to say. And that was that it was 2 weeks ago that I went and did the program and a proclamation to the fire district for its new facility. So I don't think most people know that we have this brand new facility and their dispatches in there. It's not our dispatch, but it's the total response time for our community, and hopefully people on here are not just from Danville, they're from the San Ramon Valley, because we do share in all of our goals in this valley. So thank you very much for that. Now, if you'd like to make any other comments on the mental health, because this is awesome.
Yes.
report.
Any other questions that were brought in?
Yes, that's a
that-
good one. I think Kat is here to see if there's any questions have come in.
No questions.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions for me, Mayor?
No, I think it's been very interactive. I really appreciate your coming in and doing this with me
course.
today and being available. And I want them to know your face too.
Yes, thank you. I'm out there in the community along with the officers, and I've certainly enjoyed meeting people in the last 8 months that I've been assigned here to Danville. And
Yeah.
I have over 20 years with the department, but I hadn't served in this contract city before. So it's
Okay.
been a great time kind of learning the community several different ways, to include the coffee with the cops. And someone said yesterday that she recognized me from that, so that was kind of fun.
Recess with the cops?
Coffee with the cops.
Yeah, right.
but-
We have coffee with the cop. We have recess with the
Oh,
cops. We have
recess with the cops is my favorite. I do
Oh,
cartwheels with
do
the
you?
kids.
You,
So,
oh yeah, you do the car. I think I saw that on a video.
yeah, that was, it was
Amazing.
a lot of fun. So I enjoy that one the most. But so many community events, just the parade and on 4th of July, and the hot summer car shows, and just all sorts of fun things. The lighting of the old oak tree. I've really enjoyed myself. I feel like I am learning the community, which is the goal.
Well, I guess I should say then, welcome to Danville. It's only 8, we're not a year into it, and you've done all these things, and as well as being the command role here. So we appreciate what you've accomplished, and those things that you said were so fun. If people that look up at the parade, et cetera, they see our officers protecting us during those events. They're not here for fun time necessarily, but they are here to meet the community and to protect the community during these events. And so every time we have an event, we consider you first to ask, what should we do? So.
Absolutely. Thank you for the collaboration.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you for using that word. My friend said if I don't use that word enough times today, we won't be on time.
I like it.
Thank you very,
Thank you.
very much. So just to conclude, I just would like to again make sure that I invite everybody to the State of the Town, which is March 21st. And that's going to be put on by the Chamber of Commerce over at what is now called Bay Club, that used to be Crow Canyon Country Club. But anyone is welcome to these events. Sometimes they walk by events that are in the Veterans Hall and other places, and they think they're not open. Knock, ask, because I can't think of an event where you're not welcome unless it's somebody's private rental of one of those facilities. So we're glad that you're so welcoming in this town, and I hear that everywhere I go. It's very important that you put these on your calendar, and I think we were going to put up a screen that has all of the ways to contact us in this event. We have quite a team here today. There's still 4 people here from the town in the room with me being able to film that. Would you like to review those ways to contact Jen?
Yes,
Thank you.
we are potentially having some technical difficulties with this slide, but it looks like we got it up.
Yes.
We have right now the winter live locally, or the spring live locally, spring live locally quarterly newsletter that people received in January.
Yes.
And we have a monthly email that people can subscribe to. And we also have information on the housing element if anybody wants to review that information that David shared with us. And all of those links will be at danvilletowntalks.org/mayor.
Okay. Danville Town Talks/mayor.
Yep.
All right. And personally, I just say my own efforts right away is, again, what I tried out with Scouts. I was delighted to talk to Scouts last night these were middle school kids, and I put them in. I said, okay, I'm going around the community trying to meet with small groups and ask, what is the character of Danville? And you'll know why when we come to the next one of these town talks, because when we talk about the downtown plan, it's going to be very important that you understand that concept, and that we, as a community, have asked you, how do you define the character of Danville? Because we talked to many people here today that are trying us to keep that community as special as the one that brought